The co-ops, they'll have these brace pins.
If they don't, you get barn spikes and drive in.
But the reason we use this system is because I'm in the south as well. We get a lot of heat and humidity in Arkansas. Down here, it's even greater. If you notch this post and you put your cross member in, you've got a place there at the bottom that's going to retain moisture. And when it retains moisture, it's going to accelerate the rotting of this post, no matter what kind of treatment you get. When you cut into it, you're eliminating some of your treatment. And there's some DOT fences along one of the turnpikes in Oklahoma, and I swear I bet 75% of the posts that they have notched in and put their cross members in, they have fell out. And it rots out the post right there, and then they just fall and they're hanging between the twitch wire. So we use a pin system. It doesn't matter if it's pipe or if it's wood, it still allows air to pass through there and it'll dry out over time.
Pre-drill that?
We do. Just a 3/8 wood auger will go right through it.
And when you go up 75, there's all that 8-foot fence is Beckhart fence, but they've got the same spec up through there. They notched the post, and as you drive up through there, look at all those braces, the top rails that fell out on a lot of them that don't hold up. Talk about that angle though. So you can see if we're this short, I'm pulling up on that post. So as I go down, that starts dropping that angle to the point that I'm where I want to be.
What's this distance here?
This is right at 10
10
feet.
feet.
And so this was set up for 949, we're putting up 842. So when I say 842, do y'all know what that means?
That's just the like the diameter size? No.
842, so the first number is how many line wires you have.
Okay.
42 inches tall.
Got it.
So like this here is 23, 120. So it's 23 line wires, 120 inches tall. So that's pretty universal. So anytime you're looking at fence, you can look, and that's how you get the number on it. So when you go in the store to purchase, that's what they're looking for. So.
Now on that end, we've just got a 5-inch pin.
So we'll
It's not
pre-drill
protruding all the way through.
Yeah, we'll pre-drill into this. If I'm doing a wood top rail, I drive it into this and then put it up, drive into my pull post. And then if I'm using pipe, I'll drill, put my 5-inch pin, let this hang on it, come up and drive in from the other side with the 10-inch pin.
So now we're ready to put our twitch wire in. We've got our angles set. We know where we want our cross members. We want these to fall between the second and third line wire on that fence. And if you stick to that second and third line wire, and you build 2.5 times, that's where that 30° comes in. We've already calculated that for you. So if you think, okay, I'm putting up 842, I want to drop between that second, third, just measure up, and you'll know exactly where to put your cross member. We do lift up off the ground. We always keep it up. And the reason we do is there's a lot of acidic soil, depending on what part of the country you're in. And fire ants are very, very rough on your fence. The waste is very toxic. If the mounds build up on it, I mean, it can eat that wire up in just a matter of days. They are very acidic.
So what we're using here is a grip will be fast. You can use twitch wire, like high tension bubble wrap, like you'll see on some of these others. This is a really easy way to do it. So gripples are wire joiners. They've got a ceramic roller in it. So when you insert wire in, it won't come back out. So that there's a spring behind that roller, and it'll move up, go in, come back almost like Chinese fingernails. But it comes with 16-foot cable. It's got a preformed loop on it. So on the back side of that post, I've got a staple. I run the cable through it to keep my cable from walking up or down. Then you'll slide on and come up. So you'll notice on this brace pin, we left it out and put a staple above. That's a slider, and that lets it slide back and forth rather than dig into the post. But just come up over that, insert into the other side of the grip. Whee! Maybe.
Fingers cold?
That's why we wear glasses.
Brush my knee, I'm glad it didn't come up any higher.
Yeah. With the gripples, they've got a torque tool. It'll fit all the gripples. It'll go on, and then it'll pull up. So as I tighten, you can see it'll tighten up. So with this, I'm offset just a little, so I've got that snug. If I kick that around to the middle, you see how we get loose. You always want to kick that loop to the center post. And then finish your tightening up.
very, very safe as well. There's not an open loop for an animal to get a hoof caught in or anything down at the bottom if you're running animals on both sides of the fence. Yeah, you can't get them that tight. And you know, it works very good for high tensile electric as well. It takes the place of a strainer. It's a zinc aluminum alloy body, so it conducts electricity very, very well. You put it on that high tensile wire and push it through, and you can use that tool to tighten 12.5 gauge smooth wire as well.
And that's about the tension you do?
Yeah, you don't have to get it really tight, because what's going to happen is when I start to pull on this post, it's going to transfer force down and back down my twitch wire to the base. So once I put my fence up, if I come back and feel this, it'll be tighter. So then it's doing its job. You can pull it really tight, kind of preload and pull back on this post some, but you don't have to get crazy with this twitch wire.
And the cable, the individual strands are high strength steel as well. And when you braid the cable like that, it just makes it even more rigid and it won't stretch as well. So it just continues to be tighter and tighter and tighter as you put more and more force against it. Brace. All right.
Any questions?
Oh, sorry, go ahead. Get at least a 2 3/8 pipe. You want it to be schedule 40. You want thick wall, good heavy pipe. But you want to get these a foot to 1.5 feet deeper than you do wood, because you don't have as much surface contact. And what'll happen is your pipe will start cutting through your surface, or I call it cutting through your surface. When you use a 3-post system, you increase that, and then same thing with that twitch wire on this angled strut. This angled strut is what is holding all the force. So you don't want to build an H-brace with pipe with no twitch wire, because what's going to happen is it's going to rack over, because there's nothing to hold it. This angle strut is actually what holds it. And Bullet Fence has made it really easy, because they have a full 1-inch band, all the hardware and the collars in all these kits. You simply bolt these together, collapse it against the steel, and then you have a coped collar that comes up on the hardware. Then when you tighten this up, it oblongs this collar. Watch it sit there and come up. Now the pipe can't slide through it because it's out of round. So the more force that you pull, the tighter and tighter and tighter this brace gets, transfers that energy down to that kicker and continues to push that down into the ground. Makes a really solid brace.
So how deep is that? You said 40 inches.
This is actually 10-foot pipe.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're
You're
I think
over
we're a
5
little
feet.
over 5 feet.
Yeah.
We're over 5 feet.
Yeah.
And that's one of the great things about the pipe. I am a wood guy, love wood post, but pipe is so easy to put in the ground because it's hollow. So when I do a wood post, I have to move this with the pipe because soil goes in, and it's a lot easier. But because you've got the smaller diameter, you've got to get deeper to keep driving.
And you keep the soil in?
Yeah.
Just let it.
Yeah.
What are you driving these with?
So we've got a rig mount on a skid steer, but I have a ski drill and you have a Titan T-post driver with the little Honda motors on them. They actually have pipe adapters, and you can use those to drive the pipe, and they do pretty well.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's what these were driven.
they'll drive in heavy clay. I mean, they do good. If you hit rock, it's not going to pound through rock, but man, you can pound them in, and it's a whole lot easier than augering and tamping.
Say what it is again now? It's a
Titan.
Mine's a Titan, but it's a gas-powered T-post driver. But the collar's big enough you can get on that, and they have an adapter goes in that'll make that diameter smaller and drive T-post. But you just hand hold it, and it vibrates.
You can rent those, or
You can in places.
You can rent them in places. They're pretty reasonable. Mine was less than $1,500, and mine's a ski drill, and it's a little different than vans. Mine, you change the collars and you change the handle that drives, and the collar will wrap over, and my handle actually goes inside the pipe and vibrates up and down and hits the pipe and knocks it down. Yours doesn't do that. It's just it just vibes it down, kind of like a jackhammer almost.
Yep.
But they're very reasonable places, different hardware stores and stuff. You can rent them at times.
Titans have a Honda engine and another, but I think they start $700, $800, and they go up depending on the size and the collars and everything you get, and then jump into the Honda engine.
So I learned to build in Texas, and Texas uses a lot of used oil field pipe. Anywhere that's got used water pipe, used oil field pipe, you know, you can get it very, very cheap. Usually comes in a 21 to a 32 foot section, depending on what it is. We use a lot of used methane in Wyoming. It's 32 foot sticks. So what we do is cut it twice, and you've got 10.5 foot sticks. It's a whole lot easier to drive that in the ground than it is to cut it again. And we cut, both of us carry porta bands. We cut with a porta band, and it does a very good job. Pipe is definitely a good substitute for wood, and it's becoming more and more popular every day. If you go to Texas, you very rarely will you see wood. Everything is built on pipe. Now, if you use oil field pipe, you have to be conscious of the scale that's on it. That is already iron oxide. It's already rusted. It will attack the galvanization on your wire, so you have to treat that pipe. And there's a couple of products out there. One's called Ospo, and then the other is called Penetrol. And what it does is rust converter, and it converts it into some other form that's a whole lot harder. It turns it really, really dark. And you can paint over the top of it, and it'll protect your coating on your wire. Because that coating on that wire doesn't know if it's bonded to the steel on the wire or if it's bonded to the pipe. And it'll start to give itself up to protect against that iron oxide, and it's just going to slowly deteriorate off your wire trying to protect the pipe. So if you use oil field pipe, always treat it. But we use the same principles. We build these good and wide, 10 foot, 9 foot, or 10 foot. And when you build them good and wide, it gets that angle right. It's pushing that back down into the ground. It performs very, very well. You guys have any questions about bracing?
Is the center impost, and then you want to go through, and at the crown of every hill and the low point, you want a significant, like a wood post. So you'll set all of those or any terrain transition points. Set your wood post, and you'll come back and then do the 4-1 ratio in between. Because what will happen if I'm in a low spot, the wire will pull that post out of the ground. If you don't have if you just have a T-post, it'll pull out. If you're going over a hill, it'll pull out into the ground over time, and your wire will be
right against the dirt. Always put something more significant on that ratio, and at all high points and all low points.
If you do that, the fence will last. Put the fence up.
Yep. So like we said, we're putting an 842 up with a zinc aluminum coat.
So to terminate, what we always want to do is wrap around that post and come back into itself. You'll see people that as they terminate, they'll hard staple this and come part of the way around. What happens is we put tension on this, or you take impact on the fence, this post will rotate over time, and it'll kick your top rail out and cause your brace to fail. Once the brace fails, everything's going to lean. You're always going to have slack. But as part of that, you've got to strip a few of these knots. So we'll get people all the time say, man, I've cut that thing 5 times, it still won't come off. Stripping these is really easy. What you want to do is where the stay is, you're going to cut right in the middle of that stay. Cut your stay up and down, or right in the middle of the knot rather. So as I cut, you see that comes apart. So you get to here, and you'll work your way down. And once you get them cut, take your pliers, grab a hold of that tip, and then you're going to untie that knot. So put your hand, bend it around, and it loosens up, and it'll slide right off. So it's really quick and easy. I get a lot of questions on the stays. Do you have to strip them all back? You don't have to. Some of it's preference. I like to have smooth wire all the way around my post, but all you have to do is get enough to make your termination back into itself. So if you're hand tied, you need a little more tail to do that. If you're, y'all want to try that?
You said don't staple it.
No. That's right. Just go around and tie it. If you want to put a staple in it, you can to hold it up, because as you're tying off, sometimes that wants to slide down your post. I'll show you how I do it to where I don't have to put a staple in. But if I do put a staple, I'm leaving it loose. And then when I staple up on all my line posts, I'm leaving my staples just a hair loose as well. Because what I wanted to do with that is I want that fence, if I take an impact, the fence will consume part of that impact, but I want it to spread back to my braces, because the only part of this fence that's designed to take impact or force is my braces. So what'll happen, if I've got a spot where deer are hitting that fence quite a bit, one of two things will happen. They'll wiggle those posts and cause them to get loose and come out of the ground. The other thing you'll do is it'll slide behind the staple, and as it slides behind it, you'll have a slack side and then a side that's over tension, because it can't rebound back behind a hard staple. So when we drive up, we drive our staples in, leave just enough room for the wire to slide back and forth in between. If we're on a long run, it will, if we're on a long run of fence, it will consume it before it gets to the brace. Your braces will take less of that impact than it does on short runs. So.
Did you say some people will leave those on there?
Yeah. There's some of these, like this one's got it all the way around the post. I like to take them off, but too, if I'm going through a gate, I don't want that knot there. I don't want anything that's going to catch my clothes, or it don't hurt anything to leave it on.
If you left it on, it doesn't cause any sliding at all.
No.
No.
Then on my edge wraps, a lot of times they'll slide off, but if you do want to loosen it, you can grab a hold of that, give it a little bend, and that'll loosen it up where it'll slide right off as well. Maybe. If you're building by yourself, hang that on the fence and it'll help that fence up. It makes it a lot easier. Because if you're terminating, but that'll help. You're not fighting that wire. It's not always falling down. So as he goes, we're gonna use T-clips. You can tie it if you want to show him. We'll tie with the smooth wire there just to show you. But if you'll notice, we're gonna use the T-clip. So this is another gripple product. It'll hang on the wire. Just come around the post and insert. Really quick, really easy. But you'll notice as he's coming around, he's starting with the second one down. We're going to set this top rail between our second and third line wire. By doing that one first, it holds the fence up. It doesn't try to fall down anymore. So
these gripples do make it very, very simple. Just push it through. There's a one-way locking channel. Now I can't back up. So you don't have to sit here and tie high tensile for an hour trying to get everything good and square. And they're very adjustable. You can sit here, you can turn them loose if you need to, back them off if you make a mistake, or if you tied that wire, you can't. You have to cut it, and then you hope you've got enough to come back around. These make life very, very easy, very simple. Now, they are somewhat pricey. They're about $1.20 to $1.40 a piece, depending on what kind of quantities you buy. If you buy a 10-count bag, they're going to be higher than if you buy a 150-count bulk.
What's it called again?
It's a T-clip by gripple, so it stands for the termination clip. So there is a small hole right here under the insert. You can see that pink roller in there. What it does is it goes in and it pushes that roller out of the way. But we'll catch these first two. If we sat here and we tied, then we had to make a joint in the middle. We would use gripples for the joint in the middle because we've got a small one that has two channels in it that goes both directions. So you pass one wire through, and the same mechanism that holds it. But you don't have to crimp it, you don't have to tie it. Do it by yourself, very quick, very easy.
So that you would just do your pull for both sides.
Correct. Yeah. You do a center pull, or you may just be joining 2 rows together to make an end pull.
But they do make life simpler.
And you'll notice as Keith's putting those on, he's coming around and coming right back in at a 90-degree angle. What you don't want to do is get out here, because if you get out too far, it's going to pull on one ear uneven. You want it to pull on both of those 2 ears equally. And if you do that, they'll hold up really well.
So
I keep reaching for my pouch.
Yeah.
I forgot you've got them up here.
is it better to have your vertical stay closer like that?
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. It's not going to matter.
Yeah, I will. We actually probably have quite a bit stripped off of there.
Yeah.
I like a vertical stay closer, because what it does is I can make sure I'm running good and plumb. Because if I start this fence out of square, as I make my pull, it's going to get worse and worse and worse as you go down.
So, but what's great about these clips is now we have them on, and we know our post is plumb or our brace is plumb. If you make sure that this vertical stay is nice and plumb with your post, then your pull is going to be square when you finish out. So you can come down through here and you can move them to where you need it. And if you look, you've got just about the same amount of wire out all the way down. Your stay runs good and plumb. Now at this point, you've got this end sticking out. You can either go in, you can clip it off, or you can just take your flats, push them under like that, then reach under, clip it off, and you've got nothing to treat. So if we had a gate here, there's now nothing to grab.
We'll go ahead and tie one. So if we want to tie a termination knot, I'm going to show you the process on that. So it's a little more time consuming, and depending on the fence. So this is 3-inch on the other side, so that means I've got to stay every 3 inches. It's extremely difficult to tie. But to tie these, you'd come around. So imagine that's the line wire. I'd have to bring every one of these around. You go over, under, and up and through. Back over itself. But I'd have to do that 8 more times.
Clips are much better.
No, he said no.
I said no. I said the clips are much better.
Yeah, and by the end of the day, you're trying to hold the steering wheel.
Yeah, your hands are cramping up.
Help me. What's this part for here, the wire?
This here's nut. I'm just showing you how we tie. So we can do this on every one of those to terminate. It's another option.
Okay, just to terminate.
Yeah. So we would do the same. You can do that with this. Way better.
I got you.
And guys, Beckart's got us spoiled. We know we've got all the tools, we've got all the gadgets, and not everybody will have what we have. We're going to use a stretcher bar system to pull this fence. And we get asked a lot, well, can't I just bolt 2 2x4s? We've done that before. You can, but that wire is going to slip between that wood. It's not really going to hold, so you're not going to get a good square pull like we're going to get. But you can use it, you can do that. But you're not going to get a proper strain. It's going to look a little wonky maybe or something. But we're just here to show you the bar. And this one is from Strain Right. There's some cheaper models out there. This is more of a contractor grade. It's a very good bar. It's made to be used every day, all day long. It's going to hold up for quite some time. Most bars use a wedge type system of some sort, and there are definitely some cheaper or some less expensive models out there on the market that will give you just as good a pull if you're pulling a couple times a year building fence. But these just pass through and then they compress. Just tap them in. If you watch right through here, you'll see what's happening. We're just catching.
I feel like if I can control the horse's hips,
And this one, if you lose one wedge, you've lost them all.
anywhere in this arena that I want to go.
Some of them are not tied together.
same as their termination. We're putting this bar in, trying to maintain pretty plumb with the stays.
Around, driven. I like to drive them and just get them following your nose. You let them just relax and pull from your face. Nice and stick your hook in your mouth. Start pulling on it. And then it's going to be rubber. So it takes a little bit of time and practice. That works. Doing that. That's the whole thing.
And you can hear them. You can hear them see. You no longer got that ching ching. It's a thud.
Relax.
So there are lots of pullers out there on the market. There's come-alongs, there's cable pullers. This is a chain walker system, and it simply catches 2 links as you come down.
He's like, no, I don't want to. Come on, there's the kick. Another kick. Hey.
And the key to these is to get those links running straight. If you've got any twist in it, it'll bind and it won't catch the next link.
Drop that in, show it. You don't really want to lose the ball, or do you want to?